If you don't know who Andy Beyer is, you probably don't bet on horses. So I think that's a great line. That about sums it up. You know the Beyer speed figures in the daily racing form. Everybody uses them. I mean, they're such a powerful tool. Enough about that. We want to say good morning, Andy. How are you? Welcome to Gulfstream Park.
Okay. Well, thank you, Ronnie. And it's great to be here. Thanks, everybody, for coming out at this early hour. I've been coming to South Florida for the midwinter racing since the 1970s. And since that time, this has been the main focus of my gambling life. And, over the years, I've seen it evolve in a lot of very significant ways. And, before we get into the nitty-gritty about talking about some of today's races, and I think this is a really great card, by the way, I'd like to talk a little bit about betting at Gulfstream. And I have a very profound observation to share with you. It's tough. I don't mean to be facetious, but this is, in my view, the most difficult track in America at which to handicap. The races are so complex, and if you're going to play the horses here, you really have to recognize and come to grips with the handicapping difficulties you're going to face. Now, even back in the 70s, Gulfstream was challenging. You had big fields, horses from all over the country, populating the races. But in the last few years, there's been a change in that there are just more unknown quantities than ever in the fields here. And part of that is due to the fact that horses start their careers later, horses are run more sparingly, and so in the 3-year-old maiden races here, you get numerous first-time starters in every field. I mean, it seems like Pletcher has already run 100 of them, hasn't he? The fields for older horses are always have horses coming in off of long layoffs, and it's hard to just gauge what kind of form they're in. The proliferation of turf races, has made the game tougher too, not only because turf races are usually more evenly matched, hard to decipher than the dirt, but you've always got trainers taking a shot with a dirt horse, and you've got to evaluate a horse, who has got no turf form. And so, I mean, you get some tough races. If you look at today's third race, overnight, there were 4 horses entered from good stables who were coming off layoffs of 9 months or more. There were 2 first-time starters and another horse who had never run on the grass before. I mean, that is a tough race. And, other tracks aren't like this. If you pick up the form of a $5,000 claimer at Tampa Bay, say, you're looking at most of the horses have run 2 weeks ago over the same track. And if you look at the Beyer speed figures, you make a judgment of the pace of the race, you throw out the trainers who are 1 for 100, you've got a pretty good handle on a field, and you can do all that in about 3 minutes. Gulfstream isn't like that, and I would say to you that if your idea of playing the horses is sort of coming in at noon and picking up a form or a program and starting to handicap, then this is not the track you should be playing. I think before coming to Gulfstream, if you don't put in 2 hours of serious handicapping work, you're really going to be at a huge disadvantage. But if you're willing to do the work, I want to make a couple specific suggestions of handicapping tools that are invaluable here. And I have to apologize because it's going to sound like I'm shilling for the daily racing form. In fact, I'm not their employee. My speed figure business is just a private contractor. But what I'm telling you, or recommending that you do, I'm saying because this is what I do every day. When the Racing Form some years ago introduced its software called Formulator, my thought was that anybody who's a serious horse player has to be using this. It's the most potent handicapping tool, the most potent source, of information, in the game. And at Gulfstream, I could go on for an hour about different aspects of Formulator, but at Gulfstream in particular, there's one aspect of it that is incredibly important, and that is your ability to analyze and dissect the performance of trainers and their skills and weaknesses in different areas. The things that I said that make Gulfstream so difficult, the number of first-time starters, the horses coming off layoffs, horses going onto the turf. These are all things areas in which the skill of the trainer is supremely important. I mean, you don't just throw the saddle on a horse and come over and expect to win with a first-time starter. It takes special preparation. And so if you can analyze the records of trainers and find out who's good and who's weak in some of these areas where you're dealing with unknown quantities, I mean, you've got a big edge. And I love doing the work and unearthing maybe an obscure trainer who has got special skills in one narrow area, or contrarily finding a good trainer, a famous trainer who has some weakness or some area where he doesn't have a high percentage of winners. Tomorrow in the turf stakes race, Bill Mott has a horse named Amira's Prince.
Yes.
Is that who hasn't raced since last March. And as I was working on that race, I mean, I looked up Mott's stats, and Mott, we know, is great at everything, and he's got a great record, a very respectable percentage off a long layoff. But I looked up Mott coming off 180 days or more, putting a horse into a graded stakes race, and his record over the last 5 years was 1 for 6, meaning this is something he doesn't do very often, probably doesn't like to do it. And my guess is that if you asked him, how's Amira's Prince going to run, he's going to say, I'm looking at a race down the road for her, and he's okay, but I had to get a race into him. And so, looking at the fine points of trainers' abilities is something that can give you insights into these horses that otherwise are just mysteries to us. In the last year, the Racing Form has also introduced another feature that I will unabashedly say is just fabulous, and that is the workout reports for horses at Gulfstream Park that are written by Mike Welsh, whom you certainly know from the Form, and his partner Mike Vesey. And they are publishing commentaries on horses who work for races at Gulfstream, mostly at Palm Meadows. And it's the kind of information that people in the East have generally never had access to. If you've been in California and played the horses out there, you know that every serious horse player subscribes to some workout publication, buys the Daily Racing Digest or gets the Handicappers Report online, because workout information is so important. And we haven't had that at Gulfstream until now, and this is a great source of information on these first-time starters and horses coming off long layoffs, and and some of the information is incredibly valuable. I mean, in today's second race, it's kind of a ratty maiden race. There's a horse who was run once by the name of Clack, and is 3-1 in the morning line. He's dropping way down in class. And their comment on his last workout was staggered to the wire. Well, I can't imagine any piece of info more useful in a race like this to get a big knock like that on a 3-1 shot. And Mike and Mike have been coming up with insights like that for the whole meeting. Now, as we talk about a few of the races today, I mean, you will hear me referring to these trainer stats, and in some cases the workout reports, because it's been an integral part of my many hours of handicapping going into today's seminar, as I attempt not to embarrass myself publicly, which frequently happens when I do events like this. But I'm the first 5 races I kind of pretty much drew a blank on, but starting in today's 6th race, I thought this card was really juicy, and in every race I'm pretty much against the morning line favorite.
What?
So I think nothing personal, Ronnie. So I think there's opportunity for value here. In race 6, I really like the one horse Sea Queen, and this is here's a horse coming off a layoff of about 7 months, who's run only once in a maiden race, and now is stepping up against a pretty decent field. But I really have confidence that this is a quality horse, and or is it a quality filly, and one who's going to be a good stakes horse. She ran at Saratoga last summer in a race, and I watched the film of her performance. I thought it was just very visually impressive. I mean, there was a slow pace in front of her. She was on the rail with a little opening in front of her between the two, inside the two horses who were setting the pace, and she kind of rushed up and engaged them, battled with them, and then drew off. I mean, it was a very professional performance, and it turned out that race was no ordinary maiden race. It was a stakes quality field. I mean, the second place finisher subsequently came back and won a grade 3 turf race at Keeneland by 5 lengths. And the third place finisher, Candy Kitty, you'll see in the past performances of a lot of horses in this field, where she won the $100,000 stakes here at Gulfstream. Now you've got you're dealing, of course, with a long layoff, but we all know, I mean, Christopher Clamont's expertise. I mean, the stats bear out the fact that he's very good with horses like this. I mean, off a 180-day layoff over the last 5 years, he's got a 22% win percentage. I just think this in my opinion is the best filly in the field. The competition comes from the 3 horses coming out of that stakes race at Gulfstream, the 3, 6, and 9. My initial inclination in here was to emphasize the 9 horse in my exactas, because there was a lot of trouble in that race, and and she really took the worst of it. I mean, she was really eliminated in the stretch. Unfortunately, when I cooled off a little on Cool Faith, when I read the workout report, and it said, Mike said her last workout was not as sharp as she was before that race with all the trouble. So I may cool off a little on her, but I'm playing the 1 over the 3-6-9. Maybe still a little emphasis on the 9, and I think that's the race.
You know, before we get to the 7th race, I want to remind everyone that kicks off the Rainbow Six in the 7th race. So Andy's selections are very important here. We have like $473,000 in the Rainbow Six carryover. Kicks off in race 7 today because we have a 12-race card. It's the last 6 races on the card. And just before you get to the 7th, I picked the Mirror's Prince too, so I'm batting 0 up here today. Next race.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned the Rainbow Six, Ronnie, because I think I should share my strategy for playing with the Rainbow Six with the group, and that is, except on the last day of the meeting when the whole pool has to be distributed, I never play the Rainbow Six, and I would recommend that nobody in this room ever play it either. I have been, since it was introduced, and it spawned a number of kind of copycat jackpot bets. I mean, and I consider it sort of a plague on horse racing. It's billed as a bet for the small player because of the 20-cent unit used to be a dime unit, but nobody who is a normal player, and let's say a good handicapper who's prepared to put a few $100s into a play, nobody has a chance to win the whole pool. Because when the pot gets as big as it is now, because there are a few monster players out there who will put thousands in and will have covered any combination that you could have on your ticket, and so you're taking all the worst of the percentages because of the carryover money that's taken out of the pool, with kind of no chance, to get the big jackpot. I mean, my advice to you, if the urge strikes to play the Rainbow Six, take that money and wait a half an hour and bet into the pick 5. It's the same, you're dealing mostly with the same group of races, and in the pick 5, it's a 15% takeout. With a 50-cent unit, you can cover your possibilities at least as thoroughly as you can with it in the pick 6, and it's a great bet. So I understand that Gulfstream promotes this and loves it, and when I talk to Tim Ritvo about it, and he said, but people bet it, people love this bet, and I said, well, my response usually is, well, people love crack cocaine too, but that it is not necessarily responsible to be selling crack. Anyway, that's my my obligatory rant on the Rainbow Six. But I do, but I do like the 7th race.
Well, before we get to the 7th, I want to say we have I hope I'm all right now. We have a $100,000 guarantee in the pick 5 this afternoon. So is that okay?
That's good. That's outstanding.
All right, move on now.
In the 7th race, there is a horse with a clearly superior Beyer speed figure. Good news is no news. In fact, this is probably the biggest figure standout of the day. And I often get in trouble when I do this, but I'm throwing him right out. I mean, even though this is Todd Pletcher with a top figure horse. When this horse ran at Aqueduct last time, it was one of those days on the inner dirt course at Aqueduct where the rail was very good, and the winner just ran off on the rail and won by 6 lengths, and good news is no news, just kind of followed him up the rail and stayed on the inside all the way. I mean, he is not nearly as good as that figure of 82 suggests. You know, plus the fact that he was in New York in January. It's like Pletcher, even Pletcher is telling you with that he's not a part of the A team. There are 2 or 3 horses in here who might turn out to be quite good horses, and my initial idea was just to box the 1 and the 2. I mean, the 2 horse has got one of the stronger trainer angles you're going to find, and that is Kieran McLaughlin horses making the second starts of their career. I mean, if you just bet every horse he puts on the track second time out, you'd make a profit over a 5-year period. I mean, he's 29%. You know, I mean, this is his strength. He got a big comment on his last workout. I mean, this is probably the horse to beat. But I also thought that the 1 horse Slip By, just because of the trainer, you know, had to be given extra consideration. You know, Michael Matz, I think, you know, if you know his work, he is a guy who rarely wins first time out. He never rushes his horses, and you know, Slip By, besides, you know, had some trouble in his debut. I think, you know, second time out, stretching out. I mean, this horse figures to improve as well. And at 1.1/16 on at Gulfstream, you know, the inside posts are such an advantage that, I mean, I just love the idea of boxing the 1-2, and that was kind of my play, and you know, until there was one other horse I couldn't leave out, despite the bad post, and that's number 11, Ulan Batter. I'd been making notes on the Churchill Downs races just for the purpose of you know, looking for interesting horses shipping into Gulfstream this winter, and this colt, you know, just gave a real eye-catching performance in his debut and finished like a rocket. He came back and kind of disappointed in his race against the Pletcher monster, and I guess I kind of forgot about him. And then I read the workout report, and they gave him a high grade, and they said, you know, this colt is showing a lot of talent. He galloped out huge in his last workout, so I got to put him in there, and I'm going to box the 1-11, and those, you know, in sequential bets, whether pick 3s or pick 4s or whatever. I mean, I would use those 3 and you know, and take a stand against Pletcher.
Going to skip to race 9 now?
Going on to the 9th. It's another race where I want to start by throwing out the probable favorite, Kitten's Point. The race that she won last year at Gulfstream and got a big figure in was just a phony race where it was a field of 6. There was no pace. You know, they went a half mile in 51. She was kind of right on the lead, or right near the lead, and got a very good setup. You know, now she's been laid off since April, and you know, I think Graham Motion is one of the, you know, the great trainers alive, but off of long layoffs, he is not exceptional. I mean, he bats about 15% with a very low return on investment, and you know, I think it's worth taking a position against this horse. Now, you've got a couple other good good horses coming off layoffs in here. The one horse English Class is a bona fide stakes horse, and she's got speed and she's on the rail. Certainly deserves respect. And the 4-horse Bella Castani, it's Clement off a layoff. This horse, ran well in stakes last year. I mean, she clearly deserves a lot of respect. But, the horse that in the face of all these horses who are coming off long layoffs, there's one horse in here who is in very sharp form right now, and that's the 8-horse Key. Now, at first glance, you look at her and see, gee, she just won in a photo finish in a bottom level allowance race, and she ran against these, and now she's running against these stakes horses. But that was a real good field she beat. I mean, the second place finisher, came back and ran second in a stake, a Grade 3 stake at Tampa Bay. I mean, the third place horse in there had run in Grade 3 stakes in Europe, and he really finished like a rocket. I thought it was visually impressive. This horse is in good form. You don't know for sure about these long layoffs, so I'm gonna take Key and use her with with the 1 and the 4, maybe even throw in the 6 for a little bomber.
Just for your information, the 5-horse is scratched in the 9th race. That's the 5 Kipling's Joy, and the main track only will come out. I guess it might be out by now, but definitely the 5 is out of the 9th race.
Okay. I wanted to talk about the stakes races today, but sometimes you just don't have anything to say. And I couldn't figure out the 10th race at all. And it's so totally devoid of speed. I think the possibility for a kind of a freaky result is there, and I can't figure it out. The 11th race, I thought is also a race without much speed, which is a little unusual for a $100,000 stake at 7 furlongs. And I think there's a good possibility that the 10-horse Sing Another Song, may get loose in here, and he's in great form. But the more I looked at this race, there are just too many live horses. As I say, if I'm playing pick 5s, I would probably emphasize the 10-horse, but I don't think I have enough confidence, to make a stand. Now, I do have confidence in the 12th race, and Ronnie, my friend for decades, makes the morning line here, and he's a man who takes pride in his work and does good work, and so Ronnie, I wonder if we might work out just a little man-to-man wagering arrangement.
Okay.
And you've got a number 6 Band of Joy at 4-1 in the line.
Right.
Tell you what, I'll take 7-2. Perhaps we could just do some business.
Okay, I missed it by not much.
Band of Joy is a standout in this field. He sort of late in life discovered his niche running in sprints on the turf. And the race in the form, you see, November 30th at Churchill Downs, he got beat a half length by a horse named Great Attack, who has been one of the most durable and top turf sprinters in the country for like 3 years. I mean, he's been competitive in the Breeders' Cup turf sprint, 2 different years, and based on that performance, somebody bought him privately and turned him over to Todd Pletcher. Well, when this horse ran at Gulfstream last time, he had he had a really tough trip. I mean, he got badly checked out in the backstretch, and just came flying. And you know, this is a real good turf sprinter. And you know, the horses who are the competition in here, like Kingston Bay, are basically like $20,000 claimers. So this would be a single for me in any of my exotics. Now, should we move on to tomorrow briefly?
Yeah, let's talk about the Don Handicap, if I can take it here. Let's go.
Yeah, I find this a very interesting race, but I want to start with a parenthetical subplot here. You know, a lot of people have, you know, even though they've seen the Beyer speed figures in the racing forum for a long time, and I think they a lot of people have the notion that some computer is cranking out these figures, and you know, I'm just sitting back collecting a royalty check. This is not the case. I mean, we have human beings doing you know, the figures at every track. For every track in the United States. I mean, not a number appears in the racing form. I mean, even if it's a $2,000 claimer at Wyoming Downs that doesn't have some human oversight. And the reason we do that is because if you just do figures mechanically, you will sometimes just get, you know, crazy times that don't make sense, and a figure comes up just so big or so small that you say, this isn't logical. And I don't want numbers like that to undercut, you know, the credibility we have. So when we see something and say, this doesn't make sense, you know, we feel free to override what would normally be the figure, and arbitrarily do what we call projecting a number, but you know, putting in a number that makes sense. And in the case of Revolutionary, who's in the Dawn tomorrow, he's obviously we gave him a figure of 93 last time because it came up 10 points higher. And when we looked at all the horses in the race, you know, like we didn't believe it, and so we lowered the number. Now, nobody's run out of the race yet until today, and there are two horses from that Revolutionary race that are in the turf in the sprint race, the sprint stake today, the 11th race. Number 4, Revron. Number 5. Falling Sky. You know, they don't have great numbers, but if those horses were to run really big today, then we were wrong, and Revolutionary, you know, is a horse that would become a real contender in here. I don't think it's going to happen, but you know, we sometimes make mistakes, and I just wanted to tell you a little bit about, you know, the mechanics of making our figures. But regardless of that, I really find this an interesting race, you know, from another aspect of speed figures, and that is the current form of Will Take Charge, who's obviously like the top horse in this race. He's the champion 3-year-old. He almost won the Breeders' Cup. I'm going to take a stand against him tomorrow, and here's why. When he, you know, Wayne Lucas is one of the few trainers who's really left in the business, who's really willing to run his horses aggressively. And after this horse almost won the Breeders' Cup, he wheeled him right back later in November into the Clark Handicap at Churchill Downs, and there he met Game On Dude, who was also one of the top horses in the country and still a contender to win an Eclipse Award. Well, they had a rousing battle, and Will Take Charge won by a head, and I think everybody who watched the race would say, "Boy, what great horses! They put on a terrific show. They fought their hearts out." What happened, when you look at the speed figures, is that both horses, after tough, long campaigns, were shot. I mean, they ran a figure of 101, the worst, by Will Take Charge in months, and even that 101 might have been a little bit generous on our part. I think that, Will Take Charge just ran out of steam in that race, and I just don't see him bouncing back into into his mid-season form, in his first race as a 4-year-old. I think it could be wrong, but I think it is worth taking a shot at him because he's clearly going to be a short-priced favorite. There is a horse with a big number in here named Romanche who got a figure of 110 at Aqueduct. It just came from out of the blue. I'm not really convinced on that horse, but the one that I feel is going to run a terrific race is the 5-horse River 7. River 7 had been running mostly on the turf until on December 22nd. He ran a $100,000 stakes race at Gulfstream against a horse. If you're a Floridian and a racing fan, you know the horse. You can pronounce his name for me. Shaba, C-S-A-B-A.
Yeah, Shaba.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a real tough, fast horse who's run like 500
races.
plus 500 races, but he's run triple-digit Beyer speed figures, 5 times. He had the lead in that race, and River 7 on the turn just blew by him like he was standing still. And Shaba, wasn't shot. I mean, he held on to finish second, but this was like a really explosive move and a terrific performance. And I think River 7 has the potential to step up into the upper echelon of the stakes horses here, and we're going to get a price knocking off Will Take Charge. So even if all of my opinions today tank and leave everybody short of cash, we always have tomorrow to look forward to. Thank you.